Olá, meu nombre es Seno, eu soy de Brasil, and that's all the Spanish I have for you today. Today we're going to talk about DXP Cloud. We're going to do a deep dive into what is DXP Cloud, how it works. I'm really happy to be here. I think it's my third symposium, and it's always amazing to be in this theater with all of you and sharing knowledge about LiveRay. I work at the LiveRay Cloud division along with Eduardo, Fernando, Ilian, Pedro, Tiago, and many other amazing team members. And as we saw yesterday, going to the cloud is not easy. There are many times that we want to go to the cloud, have a successful project, but that may not work, and according to research, 62% of the projects fail. So what can we do to improve that? There are many different challenges that you need to know before going to the cloud, and we're going to talk about some of them here in this talk. Number one is about having a solid business case, right? So imagine a Hamon retailer, okay? This is a company that doesn't exist, but it could exist, and it's going to be called Hamon Ray, okay? We all work at this company, and we are part of the Hamon Ray family. We sell Hamon Serrano, Hamon Ibérico de Bellota, and all the great products. We have more than 3,000 employees, and we sell all over the world. We have employees spread all across the globe, and we have a leadership team, right? And these are the leaders of our company, so I need you to pay attention to these people, okay? So the first one is our CIO, Rafael. He knows a lot about technology. Then we have our CMO, Penelope, also very important piece in our leadership team. And finally, we have our CEO, Josep. You can call him Pepe if you want. And this is our team. So those people, they need to connect with the audience. Like, we sell Hamon all over the globe. So how can we connect our leadership team and our employees with that audience? That's why we have digital experiences. And these are the Hamon Ray systems that we have today. We have a partner portal where we can use to communicate with partners. We have a public website where we can put all our organizational information there. And we have an intranet where all these 3,000 employees can communicate with each other. And all of this is hosted on-premise, okay? This is the Hamon Ray situation right now. There are many challenges that we face. Number one being the time to market. Rafael, our amazing CIO, he has a lot of demands. There's Penelope from marketing pushing a lot of things. We have Pepe pushing a lot of things to deliver as well. So there's a need for time to market, to deliver solutions fast. And being able to streamline the process is really important. The other piece is about hidden costs. If you have an on-premise architecture in your company today, you know that there are many things in place now, and it's really easy to dismiss the other details that sum up to the cost of on-premise. So we have things like the electricity, the AC to keep the servers running. You have personnel, maintaining that personnel. Maybe you have a team that has been there for 3 years and then they leave. Now you have this whole data center that you need to maintain, and nobody really knows what's in there. And the other step is compliance standards. We have a company that is spread all across the world, and attending to each one of those compliance needs in each country is really challenging. So we need a solution for that. So for Hamon Ray, it's not about hype. Moving to the cloud is not, okay, just because everybody's moving, now I'm moving too. It's about ROI. Simple as that. Decreasing costs, increasing revenue. So now that we know that going to the cloud is good, what provider should we choose? That's the next step. And one thing that people take for granted is, okay, thinking that all the cloud providers are the same. You know, they think that, oh, just because all these companies are there, I can just pick one and it's probably going to be the same thing. But in reality, it's pretty different. Each vendor has their unique details. So we know that we have different types of vendors, and they can be categorized in IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, And each one of those categories, they pretty much take care of one piece of the whole puzzle, right? For Hamon-Ray, we need to go to the cloud. So we choose from all these options that we're going with platform as a service. And the reason for that is because SaaS is amazing, and it gives you all the high productivity tools that you need. IaaS is amazing because it gives you all the flexibility we need. But each one of those, they have a lot of limitations or a lot of freedom that comes with not as productive as you could be. So the reason why we like PaaS so much, the PaaS world, is because it's right in the middle, gives you that good balance. And among all the vendors, we chose DXP Cloud. We thought this is the best one. Why DXP Cloud? So there are many reasons for choosing DXP Cloud, right? First one is just the platform itself. It provides a lot of tools for you to be productive in the cloud and launch applications fast. The other piece is about in-house expertise. So we have been doing thousands of deployments and hundreds of customers all around the world at LifeRay. First with our GS team, and now with the cloud initiative. So all these best practices, all these lessons that we have learned along the years, it's very important. And the other piece is just like one-stop shop, right? You go and you have the product, LifeRay DXP, and now you have DXP Cloud, which is the cloud platform that supports that product. That unity is really nice because we built the product to be really unified with DXP. Okay, Hamon-Ray is going to use DXP Cloud. So now they have their project, and we're going to take a look on how that looks on DXP Cloud. This is our platform. So here I have my different environments. I have my dev environment. I have my disaster recovery environment. I have production. I have UAT. Each one of them is hosted in a different region. I have my production in Oregon, USA. I have my disaster recovery in São Paulo, for example. I have each one, my UAT in Germany, just because my business users are located in Germany, so I chose a location that is closest to them. And this is very interesting because now in one project, I can have multiple locations depending on my business needs. You can have everything in one if you want, or you can have multiple. Okay, now we have DXP Cloud. We have our environments ready. The next step is about deciding the technology stack. We know that there are many things that DXP provides to you. Is this vanilla software that you can customize the way you want. So how we turn that into our Hamon-Ray applications. We have many challenges that we need to think about. The operational system that we're going to use. Are we going to use Ubuntu, CentOS OS, Fedora? What about the database? Are we going to use Postgres, MySQL, MariaDB? What about the app server? What about the web server? Are we going to use Apache ATP 2, or are we going to use Nginx? Or what about the search engine? Are we going to use Elasticsearch or Solr? If we're going to use Elasticsearch, what about Kibana, Logstash? There's all the other piece of the stack that we need to handle. So, like choosing one part is not enough, right? Like, okay, now I'm going to use DXP. There's still a lot of things that you need to worry about and make sense of it and integrate. So that's another piece that we can help a lot. We provide the DXP Cloud Stack that makes those choices for you and helps you streamline your process. So we have LifeRay DXP, we have Nginx as the web server, we have MySQL, and we have Elasticsearch already configured and already together in the stack. This is how it looks if you're curious. We have a lcp.json file, and on this file you define the CPU, the memory, the dependencies between the services. In this case, we're looking at the LifeRay service. So here I can see that in order for my LifeRay to be deployed, I need my database and I need my search layer to be up first. I can also define environment variables. In this case, I'm defining the cluster-enabled environment variable that if you just put as true, now you have clustering set up. You don't need to worry about anything related to clustering. And also the volumes. You can define persistent data layers and specify the paths that you want to persist. In this case, we're persisting the document library in a NFS volume. So you can also choose between SSD or NFS. Okay, now we have our stack. We know the services that we want to use. The next step is connecting all of them. We have DXP, we need to put that in the cloud. How we're gonna make that connection. So we have all these services together, and on DXP Cloud we have the concept of private networks. In this private network, all the services communicate between themselves. They are exposed in different ways. Some are public, some are private. Here, for example, we have our Nginx that is talking to the web, but we have our Live for DXP that is closed, and it's not external at all. And the way they talked is through this local, the local hostname. We have a load balancer level 3 and 4 that supports multiple ports. We have a dedicated, not dedicated IP is the next one. We have TCP and UDP protocols, and we have an external switch to define if the service is public or not. So if we want to take a look, we have this ports definition that you can define the port, the internal port, the TCP or UDP protocol, and if it's external or not. The other load balancer we have is the level 7, and on this one you can define the custom domains. We have a dedicated IP that you can point an A record to this custom domain, and you can also add your own SSL certificate. By default, we give you Let's Encrypt certificates. We generate them, we renew them automatically, but if you want to use your own, you can also do that. So here's an example. You define, this is the example of the web server. You define what is the ports that you want to expose. In this case, we're exposing the 80 ports from Nginx. We're putting a custom domain there. We're telling that it has CDN enabled. That's also a very powerful feature from this load balancer. And you can add your custom SSL certificate. So on DXP Cloud, we have the network tab. And on this network tab, you can see all the services that are running and everything that is being exposed there. You have the services names, all the ports, what are the target ports, the internal ports, if it's exposed or not. We have the CDN enabled, and if I had a custom certificate, I could already put it over there. The next step is, and the next challenge is establishing a new operating model. Going to the cloud is more than just switching tools. There's a lot of different operational aspects that you need to consider. At Hamon-Ray, we have a DevOps culture that is good. Some teams are very productive, some aren't. So the good thing with DXP Cloud is that we also help with that. We give you a predefined set of environments that you can customize and add how many you want. But in this case, we're going to use dev, UAT, and prod. Very simple. And on this interface, one of my favorite screens in the whole product, because you can see in one place, okay, all the environments that I have, everything that is running there. I can see who made the last action there, what is the build number, what is the message, when this was made, and I can compare how my environments are different or similar to each other. Maybe the same code is running on production and UAT, but not on dev. So how we're going to use those three environments together. So our software development lifecycle goes through GitHub. Everything, like the source code, is stored there. We support other Git servers as well. In this case, we're going to use GitHub. And every single commit that is made goes through Jenkins, goes through our continuous integration tool. From Jenkins, it will send to DXP Cloud. And once that build is on DXP Cloud, now you can move that build around. That concept of you build once, you deploy anywhere. So let's take a look here. We have a list of builds that we made. Some are green, some aren't, but I'm just going to choose one here. I'm going to choose this build, and I'm going to put that build on the production environment. So once I do that, now my deployment is going to start, and all my services are starting up. The dependency graph is following that order that we defined, and once it's up, everything is available. It's important to notice that when we switch services, there's a zero downtime effect because we are putting them up, we're leaving the old one online. When the new one is fully up, then we kill the old one and we start that one. The other piece is about testing properly. It's a very big challenge, and this is a very simplistic way of putting, right? There's many different layers of testing, continuous integration, unit tests, integration tests. And it's very easy to just roll with the flow and pretend that things are going well. But what happens if we have a problem? You know, what happens if Hamon Ray goes down? So we need a solution for disaster recovery. If there's a problem, maybe there's a disaster that was caused naturally, maybe there was a human intervention that caused that problem. But we still need a strategy, and we need steps pretty well defined on what we're gonna do once that happens. We have two different strategies. One is intra-region disaster recovery, the other one is cross-region disaster recovery. So for the intra-region, we have, in this case, we have our production environment in the US. So we have our project over there, and we have, by default, 3 availability zones. So even if a whole data center gets on fire, we still have 2 other availability zones that are gonna serve your application. So there's no human intervention here. You can just count that this is gonna work. There's also another piece of the puzzle, which is the self-healing capabilities that we provide. For the intra-region to work the way it is supposed to work, you have to be careful about how you're defining the status of your application. And this can be configured by the users too. So in this case, we have our live-free service, our DXP service. And there's 2 ways you can define the self-healing capabilities. There is the liveness probe, the readiness probe. With the readiness probe, you can define, okay, what is my path that I want to check, what is the ports that I want to check, how many seconds, and you can be very, very granular in the way you define those things. The other one is the cross-region disaster recovery. So imagine I have those 3 availability zones and it's all good, but then there's like a whole earthquake that destroys the whole like North America, right? You still want your data to be safe. So what happens there is you have another environment in another location. In this case, we have in Brazil, but it could be anywhere. It could be in Germany, it can be in London, whatever. And in this place, we can see, okay, I have all my data that is in one environment. I can choose one backup from the other environment and restore that. So we're gonna see how backups work later on, but that's pretty interesting. And we have different disaster recovery strategies. So for this, it's like a good analogy will be if you're driving your car and then you have a flat tire. A cold disaster recovery strategy is when you don't have another tire, a spare tire, and you don't have the equipment to solve that problem and put your car back on the track. The warm disaster recovery strategy is like when you have a spare tire, you have the tools, but you still need to do yourself all the work. And the hot disaster recovery environment is when you have a special tire that you can still drive even if you have a flat tire. Eventually you need to change, but you can still drive and continue your travel. So at DXP Cloud, we have the warm strategy where you have all the tools that are needed to complete the task, and it's pretty powerful. The other piece is about monitoring, and you have to monitor constantly your environments. That's a necessity. On DXP Cloud, we have tools to help with that. So there's logs where you can see everything that is going on the application. You can filter by services, you can filter by build logs or not. In this case, we're checking the logs of our live-free DXP. If I have a cluster with many other instances, I can just pick one instance and check the logs of that instance as well. We have CPU, memory, and transfer monitoring. So we can look at our services and see what's going on inside there. For example, let's go to monitoring. I can choose any service I want. Now we're gonna choose the Elasticsearch service. And I can check my CPU, how much is consuming, how much is my data. I can see a trend. I can also filter by date and see if it's growing, and now I need to take an action or it's not. So that's pretty important. If that's still not enough and you want to check, for example, JVM monitoring, you can use Dynatrace. We have an integration with Dynatrace out of the box. So from our DXP Cloud console, you can go to Dynatrace, and you can check more information about it. So let's see one of the projects that we have, for example. We can check everything that is going on in that project. I can go and see, for example, what is the latency of my requests in different regions and see how long it's taking for each region to respond. I can filter the transactions and see, okay, what are my Java processes that are taking longer to complete or not. So you can go really simple and just see like, okay, how is my container running? But you can also go like, okay, how is my JVM going? The other piece is about security. So we know how important security is. DXP Cloud is ISO 27K compliant and SOC 2 compliant. So it's been a lot of work for us to get to this point, and we're still evolving many other pieces. But security is the core piece of our whole operation. For Hamon Ray, this is nice, because now they don't need to care about those compliance standards. And as we saw before, we have the dev, UAT, and prod. And security is also related to permissioning, how our users are accessing each one of those environments. We have different people that needs to access different environments, and they have different roles in different environments, and now we have this situation that we need to deal with all this. So on DXP Cloud, there's different levels that we help with that. Number one is just authentication in general. At Hamon Ray, we use SAML, and we have all our users on a SAML server that is in-house. Still, I need to connect those users to DXP Cloud. How can I do that? We have a single sign-on integration that you can configure. And in this case, I'm just going to use the liferay.com single sign-on. So I'm going from DXP Cloud to another SAML server. I'm authenticating there. I'm getting that user, retrieving back, and now I'm accessing my projects. The other piece is about the team that you have. So over there, there's many, we know that software is like just a collaborative work, and you can invite different users with different permissions. We have admin, we have contributor, we have guest, each permission with different roles. You have the admin that has full control of everything. We have contributor that can do most of the software development lifecycle, but cannot add new people or remove people. And we have the guest that is pretty much a view-only permission. What is good about this is that you can mix and match. Some users that are on production can be guests. Some users that are on dev can be admins, and you can change the way you want. The other piece is about auditing. So you have users, they can be doing things, and sometimes if something goes bad, you need to audit and see who did what. So on activities, you can see, okay, who did what type of activity, when that was made, and what exactly was made. So this is really important because you can go in depth and understand the project. The other piece is about backups. Having a really strong backup strategy is important. And many people just don't really go in depth into this until there's a problem, and now they are like in the middle of this fire. So on DXP Cloud, you can create new backups manually. You can just go at any time and say, okay, I want to generate a backup. And it's very easy. You click a button and that's it. There's a lot that goes on inside this operation. We make a dump of your database. We get all your document library. We make that action at the same time, so we make sure the data, there's not going to be any corruptions, and then we send that to the cloud. But you can also customize that backup to run in a cron job, for example. So you can get the same process and run from time to time, every 12 hours, every day, every hour if you want. And it's important to notice, like, there's the data integrity is the most important thing for us. So those backups are pretty secure, and you can restore them anytime you want, which is the next section, restoring that backup. Let's say you are in production and you want to restore to the dev or UAT environment. So you can choose one backup and you can say, okay, now I'm picking this backup, I'm putting in the dev environment. And that's it. Now my environment has the data from production. But then you might think, oh my gosh, what about security, right? Because now I have data from production. Maybe my developers cannot see that. So we have scripts that you can customize to just make sure you are sanitizing your data, anonymizing the data if you need. So restoring is pretty much stopping the database, stopping your live-free instance, adding the backup in, and then moving forward. And being ready for the unexpected. We know that maybe our environments are fine, we're running, we have CPU, memory, everything's good, but there are times that, oh my gosh, everything's on fire, there's a lot of access, right? What do we do now? We don't want our site to go down. So with DXP Cloud, you can enable auto-scaling, and that's pretty important. So let's imagine that Black Friday is here, and now we need to scale. If we had on-premise as before, we would need to buy another server, buy another server, buy another server. And after Black Friday, now I have all these spare servers that I'm not really using. With DXP Cloud, you turn on auto-scaling, and then it will add new instances if needed. And you only pay for what you use. Once those instances are no longer needed, it's going to automatically downscale, and you only pay for that duration. So in this case, let's take a look at auto-scaling. I'm going to turn on auto-scaling first. I only have one instance on my live application, and I'm going to enable auto-scaling. Great. Now that I have auto-scaling enabled, I can just wait, and now, okay, now I'm having more access. Now I have two instances over there, and I'm scaling that. This is great because we already handle all the sticky session on the load balancer for you. If you're having traffic to, let's say you have 3 instances in your cluster, we already distribute the traffic among those 3 instances, but now you need to add one more. So what happens now? Let's say there's a lot of traffic. Okay, we're gonna move those users to the new instances, and let's say you're using commerce, for example. You don't want your users to be on the shopping cart, and now you lost what is on their shopping cart, right? So we have sticky session to prevent that from happening. At the end of the day, what we want at Hamon Ray is this. We want Rafael to be happy because now they can deliver solutions with confidence. We want Penelope to be happy too because now sales are growing and they can evolve faster. And we want Pepe to be happy too because business is smarter and they can focus on what matters. Hamon Ray sells Hamon. That's what they know best. So we know that today we need to be on digital on every channel possible, but that's what they do best. So let's have them focus on what they do best. We are talking about Hamon Ray in this presentation, but well, we are helping real customers in real scenarios. Vodafone, we mentioned earlier, Gympass, Correos de Chile, we have Positiva Insurance Company in Colombia, and many other companies. It's really amazing to see DXP Cloud growing and now being all over the place. If you want to know more about DXP Cloud, visit our booth. We're here to help you answer all the questions you have and request a live demo. It's a great way to know the product and understand more what it can help you. There's also the website if you want to just go there and learn it. So yesterday, Brian was telling about the last 15 years at LiveRay. And it's super amazing to see how long we have come. And what we are doing here with DXP Cloud is for the next 15 years. I'm super excited to be here with you today. I'm super excited of what is going to come from this product. And I hope we can all work together on this. So thank you so much. Muchas gracias.